Hey everyone, welcome back to the Vintage Hen and Chick. My name is Shelly and I am the owner and creator here. In today's video, you are getting 3 Christmas trash to treasure thrift flips. If you are new to my channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and also hit that notification bell, and that way you'll get notified every time I upload a new video. Now let's get started. For project 1, I have these 4 wood coasters that I picked up when I was thrifting, and we are going to turn these into Christmas coasters. And I'm going to start out by giving each one of these coasters 2 coats of the Dixie Belle silk paint in the color Tidepool. I'm going to paint the top, the sides, and the bottom. The silk paint is an all-in-one paint, which means it has a primer, the paint color, and a sealer all in one. And so we're going to do 2 coats on the coasters and then let that dry completely. So I did 2 coats of the Tidepool, and as you can see, we have great coverage on the coasters. And now I'm going to be putting transfers on all of the coasters. I am on a mission to use up all of my Christmas transfer scraps. And so these transfers that I'm putting on the coasters are from the IOD Kitschy Christmas transfer set, which is a transfer set from last year's holiday release. Unfortunately, I don't have these in stock on my website because they were from last year, but I have many other florally beautiful patterns that would look great if you wanted to replicate this project yourself. And so I'm just going to apply a transfer to each one of the coasters, and I lay the transfer down and then rub over it with the transfer tool and then start peeling up from one side to the next. And then I will take that transfer sheet and burnish in my transfer. The one thing with the transfers is because I use the silk paint to paint these coasters and it has a built-in top coat, these transfers will apply beautifully to the coasters. Now this step is optional. I do like things that are distressed, and so I'm going to take some sandpaper and I'm going to distress around all the edges on the coasters because I want to see that light colored wood showing through. Like I said, it's totally optional. If you don't like distressing, you can absolutely skip this step. So even though I use the silk paint to paint the coasters and it has a built-in top coat, because these are going to be coasters, I want them to have a little bit more protection. And so on just the top where I have the transfer, I'm going to add one even coat of the Dixie Belle clear coat in the flat finish. And then once that's dry, I'm going to come back and do another coat of some gator hide to really give these coasters some extra durability and some water resistance. My flat clear coat has dried, and now I'm going to add one even coat of the Dixie Belle gator hide. It is recommended not to put gator hide directly over a transferred surface. You want to always put some sort of clear coat on there first, like I did with the flat clear coat, and then put your gator hide on top of that. And like I said, because these are coasters, I am applying that gator hide because the gator hide has some water resistance and it is super tough, durable top coat. And so it's going to be protected if you're putting your wet glasses on these coasters. For project number 2, I have these little glass Wee yogurt jars. My family loves the Wee brand of yogurt, and I think these jars are adorable, and so I wanted to upcycle them. And I'm going to start out by adding 2 coats of the Dixie Belle Slick Stick. Now, I'm using Slick Stick because it's what I have opened and on hand, but the new product that is the alternative to the Slick Stick is the Dixie Belle Bonding Boss. And what this does, it acts as a primer and a bonding agent. So anytime you're painting something like glass or metal, you want to have that bonding agent and that primer below, because that's going to help your paint really stick to that glass and not scratch off. And so with the Slick Stick or the Bonding Boss, what you do is you add 1 coat, you let that completely dry, and then you add a second coat and let that sit for 24 hours before you paint your paint color on top. So the inspiration for this project came from somebody who posted on the IOD Creative Tribe Facebook page. And so I showed it to my daughter. She loved it. And so these jars are going to be for her. And I'm going to start out by using the IOD Snow Globe mold. And I'm going to use my IOD air dry clay. And so I am putting some cornstarch inside of the molds that I'm going to cast. What the cornstarch does is it helps you release your clay from your molds once you have it cast. And so I'm going to add the cornstarch, and then I'm going to take my IOD air dry clay and press it down into the mold. I like to press it straight down first, and then I use my fingers and my hands to go out from the sides, because there's that micro rim on the outside edges of all of IOD's molds. And what that micro rim does is it makes it really easy to kind of peel off the excess clay from your mold. And then I'm just turning my mold upside down and kind of letting gravity help to release that clay from the mold. The cornstarch also helps as well. And so I'm going to cast all of my clay into the molds, and then once that's done, we're going to apply them to our yogurt jars. So now that I have all of my molds casted, I'm going to start applying them to my jars while the clay is still wet. And I'm going to be using Titebond Quick and Thick. It's my favorite glue to use for projects like this. And I just put some glue on the back of the clay, and then I use my finger to spread it out. You want to make sure you get that glue to the very edges of your clay, so that way you don't have any edges or corners peeling up on your project. Once I have that spread out, I'm just going to gently lay my mold onto my jar and then press it down lightly with my fingertips. Like I said before, the clay is still wet, and so you don't want to distort your image at all in your mold. And so I'm just using my fingertips to gently press that mold onto the jar. And so I'm just going to continue to glue all of my clay molds onto my jars, and then once those are on, then we'll start painting. So I have all of my clay molds glued onto my jars, and now I'm going to start painting them while the clay is still wet. And I'm going to be using the Dixie Belle Mint Julep, which is a chalk paint. And one of the reasons why I paint these while the clay is still wet is because when you paint it when it's still wet, it can reduce the cracking that you get in the clay. And so I am using a combination of a small brush and a little sponge dauber to paint these jars and the molds. I want the jars to have a little bit of texture, and I don't want brush strokes, which is why I'm using these little sponge daubers. It kind of gives a nice textured look to the jars. And so I'm going to continue to paint 2 coats of my mint julep on all 3 of the jars and then let them dry completely. So my paint has dried completely, and now I'm going to seal these in and give these jars kind of an antique look, and I'm going to be using the Dixie Belle Van Dyke Brown Glaze. And what the glaze is going to do is it's not only going to seal the jars in, but it's also going to really highlight all the detail and the texture that I created with the paint and the detail in the clay molds themselves. And so I'm just taking a brush and I'm applying the Dixie Belle Van Dyke Brown Glaze in sections. You want to work with sections when you use this product because it can dry pretty quickly. So I'm applying it, and then I'm just taking a paper towel and kind of dabbing and wiping off the excess until I get that look that I'm going for. And so I'm going to go around the entire jars with my glaze, and I'm also going to do the bottoms and the top rim. And then once that's dry, then this project is complete. Did you know that you can get these adorable bamboo lids for the wee yogurt jars on Amazon? I'll leave the link to those in the description box below. Project number 3 are these white ceramic rounds that I get on Amazon, and they make perfect Christmas tree ornaments. And so we're going to turn these into ornaments using the Dixie Belle Winter Wonderland rice paper in 2 patterns. I'm going to put one pattern on the front of the ornaments and the other pattern on the back. And because they're already white, it makes it really easy to decoupage rice paper or decoupage paper onto these white rounds. And so I'm just taking my rounds and I'm laying it over my decoupage paper and tracing out the exact size and image that I need for my project. Once I have those traced out, then I'm going to cut everything out and start applying it. So I'm going to trace out 4 for the front and 4 of the plaid pattern for the back. I have all of my rice paper cut out for my tree ornaments, and now it's time to decoupage them onto my ceramic rounds. And this couldn't be any easier. I'm going to be using my Dixie Belle Satin Clear Coat as my decoupage medium. And so I'm just taking my mister bottle of water, misting the back side of all of the pieces of decoupage paper, and then I'm applying an even coat of my Satin Clear Coat over my ornaments and laying my rice paper down. And then I'm just going to smooth it out with my hands and then take my brush and apply a coat of the Satin Clear Coat over the top of the rice paper. So I'm going to continue to apply the deer on the front of all of my ornaments. I'm going to let those completely dry. Once those are dry, I will turn them over and then apply the plaid pattern to the back side of all of my ornaments. So I let my ornaments completely dry, and now I'm going to take my finger sander and sand around the outside edges of the ornaments to clean up any of that excess decoupage paper that is on the ornaments. You want to make sure that you let this completely dry before you do this step, because if your decoupage medium is just a little bit wet, you're going to risk tearing that paper. And so I just start on one side and I sand in a downward motion, and this gives a nice cut to the rice paper around the edge, and you have a nice clean edge around your ornaments. I added a beautiful red velvet ribbon to all these ornaments, and now they are ready to hang on the Christmas tree. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you got some inspiration from today's projects. All the products that I used today are available on my website at thevintagehenandchick.com, and I will link those in the description box below. I'll be back very soon with another video, so I'll see you then.